Welcome back to the show. We've got a special guest on the phone right now. Tristan Barr is one of the busiest men in the Australian film industry. Of course, we recently took a look at his brand new movie, Head Count, that he's involved with, but he's also got another movie out at the moment as well called Subject, which is a pretty intense horror thriller. So we thought we would actually get Tristan on the phone today to chat a little bit about Subject. Welcome to the program, mate.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me, mate.
Now, like I said, you're a pretty busy filmmaker, producer as well. Like I said, we just looked at Head Count, it seems, a couple of months ago, but you've also got Subject out as well. Tell us a little bit about how busy you've been over the last couple of years.
Yeah. It's look, I've been really lucky to be busy. It's been great. We shot Subject actually before Head Count, and we shot it in a warehouse in Melbourne, and it was just kind of we just kind of came to the realization that we needed to create something that could stand out in the market, and so we decided to go into the most weird and intense horror film we could possibly do with Subject, and so basically from there I got all of the people I knew who were actors and filmmakers around me to come and help, and we basically shot this intense thing in a studio or in a warehouse that we built kind of it's kind of like it takes inspiration from that film Old Boy, the set.
Yeah.
Just this prisoner has to exist in this space with all these cameras in it for an indiscriminate amount of time. So we built it in a week, and then we just kind of explored the script for 2 or 3 weeks.
I was going to ask that. How did you said you wanted to do something that would really stand out in the market, but where did this idea come from? You mentioned Old Boy there, but was there something that made you want to tell this story, and how did that script develop from there?
Well, it was actually through a US writer, Vincent, and he sent us the script, and we really liked it. And he basically said, he works for Warner Brothers in the States, and he's got good relationships with all the studios and kind of distributors over there, but no one wanted to touch it because of how weird and intense it was, and so it kind of aligned really well. So we were needing something to feel like we could break out with, and luckily, the horror audience and the horror fans kind of responded to it, which was great. It got a deal in the US on one of the major horror streamer platforms over there called Screambox.
Yep.
And so it's kind of taken off from there, which has been awesome. It's just been great seeing people support it, and just to have shot that in a little warehouse in Melbourne is great. It's great to see that you can kind of do it, and we shot it on about $30,000. So
wow.
It's very no one, whenever we say that, people are just like, oh, that's insane, that
Yeah.
you managed to do that. But it was just purely out of kind of people's passion that we got it together.
Now, as you said, Subject was well received by horror fans. Horror fans can also be very vocal if they don't like a film. Is that something that weighs on your mind when you're delving into that genre?
Yeah, but look, I think it's with all film. Every film critic, everyone's a film critic now. Everyone has social media, and so I think I've kind of come to the acceptance that people have their own tastes, but as long as the people that I respect, I suppose, kind of align in my thinking, it would be heartbreaking if someone I really respected just hated my films. So that's kind of her. I'm looking at a few different people, and it seems people who I like, and that's goes to say, like, across the board, there's some terrible films being made, and from studios, and I really like the indie space because it does. You get these really exciting gems that are very unexpected. So that's where I'm trying to keep staying in that space, even though it's quite difficult with financing stuff. It's way more exciting for me. We just shot a film late last year, actually in kind of remote Queensland, and again, it was kind of in that indie space, and it has this whole crazy lore to do with kind of heaven and hell. It's similar to that film Constantine, and I'm really excited to kind of show horror fans that, because it does have like some really cool kind of crazy lore to it, which is exciting. So I mean, long story short, I do get nervous, but it doesn't stop me from making it.
Yeah. So Tristan, one of the keys to this film working was always going to be the performance of who played Willem, and Stephen Phillips does an absolutely amazing job there, and he's been around the Australian film industry for a little while now. What made you choose Stephen for that role, and was it a casting as in an audition, or how did you discover Stephen?
Steve was actually my movement coach at drama school. So I started as an actor, and he was my movement coach, and he was the most sort of committed, intense dude that I'd see perform because he was doing a few Melbourne Theatre Company shows and Malthouse Theatre shows, and I went and saw him as he was kind of the teacher, and he developed. He was part of like a few teachers that developed this thing called Pulse, which is basically like an experimental sort of movement thing which allows actors to devise theatre. So, it's about kind of moving around the space and kind of exploring, building kind of scenes in a physical sense to their climax, and just so they're exciting and not. It sounds a bit kind of like interpretive dance when I explain it, but it's not like that at all. It's just intense physical work, because we find that when actors are actually going through something with their body, like they're quite connected with their kind of emotions.
Yeah.
And so he was just amazing at that. And so as soon as I got the script, I was like, he would be perfect, because he is he's a young dad, and so he's got kind of his emotional sort of context of his own family and stuff, but he's just such a good physical performer. So being trapped in three small spaces for the majority of the film, he needed to bring it and to feel like this guy was going crazy in these small rooms. So I just kind of cast him and let him work in the space. Like, obviously we had a script and stuff, but he was coming up with a lot of the like offers that are now in the film. So that's kind of how it all happened. So it was easy as a phone call to him, and then obviously had to go through his agent and all that sort of stuff as well.
It has such an intense and claustrophobic feel to the film. How did you find that on set, and like working with Stephen, how did you make sure that he was kind of shutting off at the end of the day and it wasn't affecting him as well? Because I imagine it would have been pretty claustrophobic on set as well.
Yeah, poor Steve. Look, he didn't shut off that well. Like, he was having severe nightmares, and he was trying to exist most of the days in the space, just so he was kind of keeping in it. And so it did really take a physical and mental toll on him after. Like he was quite wrecked after the shoot, and you can kind of see that in his performance. Like you can see that he is quite distressed, and that's something you can't just kind of switch on immediately. So he, to his credit, he really kind of he was really able to kind of commit to the project. But yeah, he's telling me he kept having nightmares of the monster, and so that's it took him a couple of months to unwind from it.
Yeah, from a technical point of view, you're able to get some great angles in this film because of the fact that you can have cameras in shot because it matches with the story. Did you find that kind of liberating as a filmmaker?
Oh yeah, it was. That was yeah. So part of the design is that we knew we had to have cameras in shot and everywhere just to be able to tell the story in the most effective way. Initially, it wasn't in the script. It actually wasn't a surveillance footage film, but we decided like it's a far more interesting way to tell it. So it was awesome to be able to have. I think sometimes we had about 12 cameras going at once.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the edit, you can do so much with that. Like you can be cutting, the rhythm of the edit can change significantly, which is great. So I really love that. It was a nightmare sometimes trying to decide what shot to use, but that it was great to have the options for sure.
Definitely. Now, just on the big question, where can people watch Subject if they want to sit down and watch it?
Yeah, so it's Umbrella Entertainment in Australia have released it, so you can get it at your JB Hi-Fi stores, DVDs, or you were able to just purchase it on Amazon Prime, stuff like that. Some good news in terms of anyone who's got a Shudder subscription, it'll be coming out on Shudder pretty soon for Australia, and then obviously US Screenbox and Shudder in the UK as well.
Awesome. Now, while I've got you on the phone, for our listeners, I want to ask this question as well. Headcount made my top 20 films of last year when I saw it. A lot of people
awesome, man.
No worries. A lot of people have been asking us, when will that get a release in Australia? Because, of course, I saw it at Monster Fest. So what's the word with Headcount, and what else are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, so Headcount's also out through Umbrella Entertainment, so you can purchase it, like you can stream it, and I'm pretty sure they're doing a DVD release as well. So we'll wait for that. In terms of the streaming company that they're kind of talking, whether it's on Binge or Netflix or whatever, they're talking to a few different people, so we'll see where that lands. For me, I'm in post on 2 films, but at the moment, so I'm kind of busy for the next 3 or 4 months in the edits of those, but we'll be able to see them kind of later this year. But I'm busy trying to get more horror films up. We're working with Monster Pictures on a few films that hopefully will a grant from Monster is overseas pitching at the moment, and hopefully we come back and we can do some kind of cool, crazy horror films. And so we really appreciate everyone who supports these films and watches them and just kind of is able to take a punt on something that isn't your kind of sort of usual sort of viewing experience, just because it allows us to go and make some other cool stuff.